Yo. Hey everyone, I'm back from a bit of a hiatus. I had a couple physical body problems that I was working on and Reikiing out, and I figured as I'm getting better, I'd start making videos again. This one is one that I think about a lot, especially as I was dealing with my own personal physical health problems. And that is, why can't Reiki heal us immediately, instantly, like we hear about in stories from enlightened masters like Yeshua of Nazareth or Jesus Christ? And in those stories, we see people being healed miraculously and instantaneously, Jesus goes in and basically just yells at Lazarus, and he gets right back up and starts walking. There's stories of him healing the sick, healing the lame, healing the blind with his hands, and also teaching his disciples to go out and lay hands on people and heal them themselves. And I think that, that famous line where you shall do even greater works than this, that Jesus says, I think that very much applies to what we do with Reiki, and also to anyone who continues the spiritual path beyond just the information, religious dogma that's presented to them, and seeks a personal union with the energy itself. That's what I think a lot of Reiki is about discovering this key, this spiritual energy, and using it and embodying it, and bringing it forward so that it interlaces with your own creation of your own life. And so if we're doing that, and we're doing all that properly, or at least semi-properly, like we probably understand the apostles were, why can't we heal instantaneously like Jesus Christ did? And I think a big reason for that is, well, I think there's two reasons for it. One is, it may certainly be possible to do something like that, or to be someone who could bring such instant healing to someone else. I think that someone who was able to perform such acts would be someone who was so in tune with the energy, whose mind was so fused with the ray, or like the wisdom of the universe, the wisdom of the energy, the wisdom of knowledge and the energy itself and how things work, that perhaps from that person's point of view, there would be no chance for illness to stand before it, because the illness would be stripped away by sort of the light or the vibration of that person's perspective. In the same way that, like, if you have, I don't know, like if you have dust on your keychain, you can shake it and the dust comes off. In a similar way to when standing before the masters, it is our inefficiencies and flaws that can be stripped away just by being in their presence. I think that's a lot of reason why we have stories about people climbing the mountain to see the master and learn the ancient secrets and knowledge, is because that is part of the transformation of going from unknowing to knowing, from going to not in tune, not feeling like you are embodying this energy, embodying this light, and going to become someone who is, through the process of climbing and then learning under the master. I think in the same way, and this brings me to my second point about injury and sickness and healing it ourselves with Reiki and why it takes time, I think that within all of these maladies, there are these grains for ourselves to learn and more fully attune to the wisdom of nature, which our bodies are connected to, and the wisdom of universal laws, which our bodies are also subject to. And in doing that, we learn these lessons. I was having some really bad, I am having some pretty bad still lower back pain and some pain in my hip, and I'm learning that my sedentariness was a big cause of this. And so my flaw of my laziness, at least the laziness that I had been exhibiting over recent times, had to be burned away, and I have to learn to become more active and become more athletic in order to be well. I think that you can look at that kind of reasoning and say, oh, well, there are some sicknesses, there are some maladies that we get where there are no lessons to learn. And indeed, I think that's where we get these ideas of like miraculous healing and stuff like that, where I have, I have cancer, or I have an immune deficiency or immune response disease that seems very much inflicted by genetics or whatever. And even in those cases, I think, and this is where the spiritual world comes into it, there is something to learn, because what is learned is your encounter with mortality. And I think that the thing, especially when it comes to illness, and especially when it comes to the well-being of your body, the true knowledge is that this existence, your existence, this energy's existence, is eternal. The matter upon which it is the sort of the top layer of the energy itself, that's always dancing and changing and shifting, and even the tectonic plates upon which the ground we stand can shift a whole lot over a long period of time. I mean, even the different continents upon which our countries lay, of which we are so proud, were once all one solid landmass called Pangea. Our lives change, and through our deaths, our shuffling loose of the mortal coil, we discover the energy, I think and believe, in a much more profound way than we are likely to while we are here. And that energy, that consciousness that we all stem from and return to, is the source of momentum of the universe and the source of momentum and vitality in your body. And so even in our darkest moments of our most sick, we can still call upon the energy and feel the connection to it, and therefore feel the connection to all things. And even when it comes to something like cancer is your gene's decision to stop rapidly outputting cells. That's essentially what even chemo is trying to get it to do, is to kill all of the tissue, and then eventually through force, try to convince the cells to stop acting like that and to go back to normal. And even that decision of the cells right there is a flip from one thing to another. Similarly, I think that we can experience these illnesses, we can experience these maladies as victim, or we can experience them as looking forward with hope, either towards our health or at least a slightly better and less miserable existence. So why can't we do it why can't we do it instantly? Why can't we heal everything that we ever encounter with our bodies and our minds instantaneously and return to stasis? I don't know that there is a stasis to return to. I think all of these things we do are a process that we go through that brings us to health and wellness, which is an eternal quest even after your body bites the dust. And so there's a lot to look forward to, and with that type of mind frame, I think most physical and even emotional and mental maladies can be overcome by looking forward to the life you want to live, now made out of context of what you've previously experienced. And that context is important, and that context is the things that can go wrong even with our bodies. So try not to curse those things, and like me, try not to wish everything would go faster, because everything taking its own time is the process through which we become more adept in spirit. Thanks, guys.